Hello, everybody, and we are back. Holtby 6, episode 2. I've got some awesome guests on tonight, and for those of you that guessed correctly, yes, it is the UTV boys. So I've got Luke, I've got Justin, I've got Ryan. How you doing, boys?
We're
Super,
all
very
good.
good.
Thank you, mate. Very good.
Amazing. Lovely to have you on. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and talk about a little bit something different. We'll keep talking about the Villa for sure. There's stuff to talk about on the back of the last few days' news and announcements, but we will keep it kind of focused on what Holtby 6 is all about. As you know, that is mental health, that is well-being, that is trying to raise awareness of this subject as much as we can within the Villa community, and we'll see where we go. We'll see what we talk about. Very deep, very raw, very kind of no planning, nothing in this. Very on the cuff, and that's what this is all about, and that's what's important for everybody. So. Let's go. We're all wearing Luke Roper tonight as well, aren't we, boys? Is everybody got
We are indeed.
Yes.
We are repping.
Amazing. That's lovely. Love to see that. Cool. Welcome, boys. Really good to have you on. So I'll just fire a first question out, really. How do we feel about living crisis and the current prices of stuff this week? What's going on?
Are you on about Villa?
On about the Villa, yeah.
Well, we got something big to fund, haven't we? So you can see why the prices are on the rise. We on the season ticket holder, I've been hit with a bit of an increase. We've seen the training kit increase, and I just think this is just where Villa are trying to get to. We're trying to increase our revenue, which gives us in turn nice things, nice players, better facilities. So I just think we just got to, although we don't like it, we've sort of got to just unfortunately deal with it, I think.
Yeah, I agree in essence. How do you think it's affecting the fan base in terms of like day-to-day life at the minute? You know, times are tough. And how does that, from a club that you love and a club that you followed for years and years, you being asked of more and more and more, and it's becoming really kind of unrealistic for a lot of the fan base to participate in this new stuff. It's just not affordable. So how do we get around it? Just how do we?
I think the problem is you're talking about a huge fan base here. You're not talking about like a non-league team that's got a few thousand people. You've got hundreds of thousands of people that follow Villa. So by default, then you've got a huge slice of society. So you've got millionaires that follow the Villa down to people that are struggling following the Villa, and they all want to do the same thing. They all want to go to watch the games. They want to wear the shirt. They all want to, have a drink at the Villa, buy the programme, buy the gear, watch them on the telly. And unfortunately, the modern football world, this costs us a lot of money, doesn't it? You've got your Sky subscriptions, your BT subscriptions, your season ticket, your kit, your programme, your beer when you go to the game, your petrol to get to the game. It's a very expensive business, isn't it? So because you've got that huge sway of society you're covering, obviously the ones that are struggling and haven't got the money, it's hitting them massively. And then the ones that probably are doing a bit better, they're feeling guilty because they can afford to go. And then you get this cross-section on social media that people are moaning, and the people that can afford it, they're feeling guilty because they can afford it. And this causes all these arguments constantly all the time. And there's no real way around it, is there? We are on a project. We are on a long-term goal to get to the top. Unfortunately, at the moment, the team finishing where it did last year, I think everybody's looking at it and thinking, well, the team aren't where the sort of prices are, I suppose. That's probably the biggest problem. Had we finished fourth last year and had a miracle season and we was in the Champions League this year, then I think people would be probably a lot easier to swallow these price increases. But hopefully the team will catch up, and I think it will.
Yeah, good, lovely. Ryan,
it just doesn't feel like the club is synthetic to what's going on at the minute, is it? There's no sympathy towards the fan base. It just feels like every day there's something new on the market, which is the prices have gone up and up and up. I get it with the season ticket prices. Look, we've been lucky for years and years, Then Championship prices went into the Premier League, didn't it? And it froze, and we kept the same prices. So I think reasonably, I think the prices are okay. It's just the way it got restructured, and Justin, I felt sorry for you because that restructuring affected you bad. But then like the Villa TV comes out and they want £5 a game to watch that. You want £40 for the package for the lot. the kit comes out, everyone's buzzing for it, everyone wants to buy it. As soon as you click on the app, boom, 60 quid. No way, man, no way. It just doesn't feel like they're in touch with us at the minute. But
I do think though. Sorry to put over you, right, but I do think the problem with Villa and the way that they sort of their business model is, they get one chance a year to set the prices for everything. You know, like most businesses, like my business selling sort of food, if prices go up, you can adjust that quickly. I can put prices on at any point during the season. Whereas Villa and football, they get the summer really to set prices for everything, don't they? So the season ticket price has to be set. That's it for the year. You know, the cost of your shirt has to be set. That's it for the year. The cost of like this package for the Villa TV has to be set now for the year. So they have to, and this would have all been probably talked about possibly last season, where the price is this year, where the price is going to be next year, where the price is going to be the year after. They don't just sit down like a week before the season starts, thinks, right, let's just have it at that cost. So it's a very difficult thing to do, and obviously taking into account where the country is at the moment, it looks mean, doesn't it? It looks mean.
I think we'll see, you know, perhaps a little bit more understanding from the club as the season goes on, and there'll be some reductions, some big discount weekends or something. That's what I'd like to see, you know, definitely. Just those little periods where the club goes, you know what, we appreciate the stuff's quite expensive, and this is a 3-day run now over the bank holiday weekend where you can get your stuff for 50% off. I don't know. I'm hoping stuff like that comes, but I guess you're right. You know, you want to be an elite team, an elite club, an elite level, and you've got to represent that through everything that you do. Hence the stadium rebuild and season tickets prices, and you know they want to be the best, and I guess to get to the best you've got to portray the best, and unfortunately there are going to be a lot of people in the community that are just going to struggle with that, but I guess they will adapt. We'll have to see how we go, I guess. All right then, boys, cool. So that's our Villa for the night. Let's go in deep, straight to it. So mental health then, boys. I know I've spoken to you all about this quite a lot over the years, actually known you all quite a long time now. Lovely bunch. And so for me, what is mental health to you? What does it mean? What does mental health mean to you as a person? How is it related to your life?
I'll kick it off then. So I'd say mental health for me is that I'm a hairdresser, so I deal with 200 plus people every single month cutting their hair, spending 45 minutes with that person, having a deep conversation with that person. From time to time, not with everyone, because normally half of them will talk about the Villa, but you know, from time to time. So I would say, you know, when you have that relationship with people, and you know that certain people can be going through certain things and different difficulties within their life, to actually take 45 minutes and talk to somebody and to care about that person for that 45 minutes is very, very important. Yeah. So, you know, I think for my job, when I've seen, you know, when you sort of cutting a regular's hair and they're saying stuff to you like maybe they've been struggling a little bit and stuff, and you just offer that time and offer that ear for them to just like let it all out and just talk to them. I think it's really important. And what we've seen when we started the podcast, when, you know, we were sort of like a release for people were being able to sort of like forget all of their worries and just sort of have something to enjoy and to sort of, you know, take their mind off things. And I think we've had that many people saying that, you know, we've helped them and just done little things. So, you know, it is a big thing for me, because I talk to people all the time, and I've talked to people that have gone through difficult situations in their life. So, yeah, I think it's massive, to be fair. But I think, and you know,
your job as well, Luke, you know, is a perfect example, isn't it, of a time and a moment where you do get that more one-to-one intimate time with someone. You know, it's not everybody runs their fingers through your hair and talks to you about how they're feeling. Do you know what I mean? That's quite a unique role. And you know, you've seen over the country, there's a lot of initiatives through the Barbers Initiative and people that do hair to kind of build up that mental health conversation. So that's really good. Is it a regular thing, Luke? Do you do it? Is it a regular thing that you get, you know, men coming in and kind of falling into quite deep conversation about stuff with you? Or
to be fair, probably I'd say yeah. I'd say yeah, because, you know, when you're offering that ear to somebody, and to be fair, I've got like, you know, 14 years worth of experience being a hairdresser. I can read people. I think I can read their demeanour. I can, if you've got a regular that's in and he's normally chatting your head off, and sometimes they're coming in, they're a bit quiet and they're just not themselves, and you used to say to them, "How's it going? You're right," and they're just like, "Oh, well, not really." So, you're there to help them in a way, aren't you? My main purpose is to cut their hair, but then my other part of them is to, see if they're all right and stuff. You know what I mean? So that relationship that you can have with someone is really important. And I'd say, for that person, the biggest thing that they can do is to talk. Do you know what I mean? Talk and let it all out, because I think if you bottle it up too much, I think that's where it can eat away at you even more. So I think for them especially, it's just to talk to their family as well, and have that support.
Yeah, no, I love it, mate. It's good. Ryan, is it the same for you? Is it similar in your job? How does it relate to you, mate? And what does it mean to you? That word, that term.
Mental health. To me, it's something that I'm new to be honest. I'm 39 years of age. So for me, growing up, never really touched on really. It's only really since I've joined Twitter and social media a couple of years ago that you see everybody talking about it and raising awareness. And for me, I don't know, I didn't get it. I wasn't ignorant to it. I just didn't really get it. And now I sit back and I'm aware of it and I'm thinking about it. It's probably something I've lived with my whole life. You know what I mean? The last time I had a helping mind, I don't know. Like my work life is very stressful. I've got a lot of responsibilities at work. A lot of people rely on me. A lot of people want things from me, demand things from me, want stuff issuing, want stuff quoting. It's constant round the clock. I get home, I've got 2 kids that want my full attention. I've got to come home, be the bubbly dad, have a mess around with them, fight with them. And then, I don't know, just, sometimes it'll get to the weekend and I'm exhausted, you know what I mean? And this is when the kids want daddy, and I'm snappy, I'm moody, I'm sad sometimes. And I sort of get it now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's where I'm at really. I didn't really understand mental health, and I'll probably say that I do probably struggle myself a bit. But like I say, I'm old school, and I'm pretty much self-taught to keep it inside really. I don't really express myself to anybody else. I don't really come out and say, look, I'm struggling today. If my missus says, "Oh, moody, cheer up," I just haven't got it in me to say, look, I'm probably struggling a bit today. I'm not feeling myself. I'm not my sort. So it's something that I still need to educate myself on a bit more. You're a great ambassador for it. I've learned a lot listening to you. But that's sort of where I am at my age group, and I'm new to it. I'm fresh to it. Where I'm so. These younger kids are lucky that you're being made aware of it and can help with it and can grow older with it. Where really I've just keep it all inside, and I still do now, to be fair.
Yeah, I think, mate, and I appreciate you sharing that. That was, straight to the heart, and I think that's a reflection on a lot of men in society. That kind of era that we're from. Those of us in our 30s, early 40s, late 40s. It's not something that traditionally we want to talk about. It really isn't. It's a subject that you want to keep away from people because of the kind of toxic masculinity, that alpha male, that old school being the dad, being the man of the house kind of ethos comes from, not being able to show your vulnerability, not being able to show your weaknesses, not being able to talk about how you're feeling emotionally because other people might see you as a failure or as a bit of a wimp. And those comments that we've heard over the years and still do today, that man up, that grow some balls, get a grip, all that sort of stuff. When people like yourself, right, have struggled and it's just really hard to talk about it. So I totally agree where you're coming from. Do you relate to that? Can you relate to that, mate?
Yeah, massively. I think over the last probably 10 years, more than ever, I've had some struggles over the last sort of decade, really. As a sort of kid coming up to probably my 30th birthday, I was always like the strong one in my family, my sort of bigger family, brothers and sisters. I was, brought up with 3 brothers and mum and dad, and I was always sort of seen as the one that would sort problems out and bits and bobs. And then, through work, probably stresses at some point. I did have a bit of I wouldn't say a breakdown, but I definitely struggled a lot with my mental health at one point, to a point when I went and sort of sought a bit of help to go and talk to somebody about it. And it did help definitely for a bit. And I sort of brushed it over for a time, thinking that's it, that's me done. I've had a chat with someone, it's gone. And then it came back probably at the start of COVID, when I really suffered really badly with health anxiety. To a point when I was in a pretty bad place at one point, and then I sought a bit more help and had a bit of CBT therapy, which was pretty mind blowing, to be honest. I didn't really know much about it until I was offered it and then did it. Because at the start of COVID, I lost one of my best mates to COVID, and it was quite a bit of a bad time, really, with sort of my work has never been shut down, really. We've been there 42 years. We've never closed a day, really. And all of a sudden we shut, and overnight the job's gone. One of my best mates died of COVID. So it was a bit of an eye-opening experience, to being the breadwinner that goes out every day working, to being just sitting at home doing nothing. My wife worked throughout at Tesco, and she was going out to work, and I just felt a bit of a spare part, to be honest, and not knowing, how things were happening and how things were working. It was pretty bad. But yeah, the health anxiety was a real eye-opener. I sort of didn't really realise it was happening until it just sort of crept up and happened, really. But yeah, it's better now than it's ever been. Still daily struggle with it. If I'm brutally honest, I still do struggle a bit with it, but it's a lot better than it was. But yeah, it's everywhere, really, isn't it? It's like Ryan says, I'm 46, I'm 6'2", I'm a big chap, and everyone looks at you, and I'm always bubbling outside. And when I meet anybody, and everyone says, "Oh, he never stops talking," and he's, but the reality is, when that door's shut and you're on your own, you've got to deal with what's in your head, haven't you? And for some people, they can deal with it really easily. Other people, like I said, I've dealt with it really well all my life, up to the point when I think there was just that many things from all angles coming that you just suddenly get overwhelmed, and that's where your brain sort of doesn't shut down, but it can't cope as well as it used to. So, but I think with what's happened over the last 10 years, really, in sport, really, because I'm massively into my football, my cricket, and everything, and the way that professional sport has dealt with these issues and brought it into the limelight, it makes it a lot easier, really, and it's now not a taboo subject. It's now a subject that's talked openly about all the time, very openly about it, Yeah. And we've got some brilliant role models at the club, I think Tyrone Mings is a fantastic role model for a lot of stuff that goes on at the Villa, let alone what he does on the pitch, but off the pitch he's amazing. So, yeah, I'm no different to anyone, really. We're all sort of just ploughing along and doing our best.
Yeah, mate, I appreciate you opening up, buddy. Yeah, thank you. I think that health anxiety is something that a lot of people could probably relate to. I think particularly over the last 2-3 years, the pandemic has certainly impacted our lives way more than just, having to deal with a few restrictions. I say a few restrictions. At one point, it was every restriction under the sun, wasn't it? But I definitely feel like that, mate. And I think it's really, really interesting to hear what you all say. And I think I'd love to know, kind of, you've mentioned just about, your CBT, a little bit of support, a little bit of therapy here and there, and that helped. I'm the same. I've had therapy, I've had counselling for the last 5 years. Every 6 weeks I go for counselling, and I get the same reaction as you do, Just. How can you stand up in front of 100 people and deliver a workshop if you've got an anxiety disorder, Aaron? That's mad. Like, you don't have mental health. Like, what's going on? And people just don't know. So you do present this self, to people, which is very different often behind closed doors and in your own mind. And, for everybody that struggles with their mental health, there is that, I call it my little parrot, kind of that little demon sits on my shoulder, and every now and again, daily, to be fair, he just gives me a little bit of a bollocking or a telling off, or telling me I'm not good at something, or telling me I need to be better, and never quite feeling comfortable about it. So, that's the difficulty, I guess, and we live with that. So, So going back to my question then, so how did you deal? Have you got any top tips for people? Like, what did you do outside of that therapy, that more clinical stuff? Rye, Just, Luke, how do you deal with keeping mentally well? What do you do? Obviously, the Villa's one of them.
I think for me it was an eye-opening experience. Once I sort of sought some help and went to try and talk to someone, I was sort of just coping day to day with just getting through the day. Really, certain things were happening, and I was just having to get through them on my own. And then sort of as soon as I went to work, it was like game face on and get on with it and meeting people. So when I realised that this actually is a problem now, I've got to go and talk to someone. And then we had to do it obviously over telephone because it was during COVID. And CBT is something that I've never really heard of, to be honest. I thought it was that oil, that the cannabis oil. When I first heard it, I thought, well, right, but it's not. It's basically a structure of sitting down and working things out logically in your head, where they give you proper practical reasons to sit down. And when you've got when you have an instance crop up of this anxiety, you sit down, you work through these sort of ways of dealing with it and talking to yourself through it, and you do. It works. It does work. It doesn't work overnight, and it doesn't work every single time, because there's times where your anxiety is so strong that you just plows through all your sort of ways of dealing with it. But it definitely helps. So yeah, I think the key, I know this is going to sound like a broken record, is just talking to people. To lock yourself away and think that there's no help there, that's the biggest problem, I think. And I don't think that's as big a problem as it was, as I say, a long time ago. Now you can go and talk to people, and there is a lot of help out there. So talking and opening that dialogue up is the biggest thing, I think.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Jay. CBT, just for those of you that are watching, CBT is cognitive behavioural therapy. And what it does is it just stimulates the mind into thinking about solutions and thinking about positive pathways out of those instances and really breaking things down. CBT works very differently for a lot of different people. For some people like Just, it was really, really beneficial. For others, it can be a real hardship, because often, as you'll probably relate, Just, it gets you to really dig deep into your soul and into your mind.
It's like being back at school, to be honest. I don't work every week. I have to go away and do this.
It's a tough
to
one.
Work through these sheets. Really
if you
do it properly, it works.
Yeah, definitely. Right. I know you've kind of come from a different angle, mate, really, in respect to, I guess you've got it now and you've struggled for a long time, but never really gone to do anything about it supportively wise. So what have you done when you think about it and sit down and think about what might have helped? What are those things, do you think?
I get a bit stressed and I get a bit angry and I have sad days, and some days especially when my son was born. I've got, my daughter was 3 years old at the time, and the love I got for that kid was unreal, unmatched. It was, and it was given back to me as well, and that love we had was incredible. And then my son, we suffered a miscarriage, going for our second, and then the third one come along, Ralph, and it again, all joy when he was born, but could not bond to him. I could not bond, and it took a good 6 months. And when I told my missus about this mental health episode, she said, "Well, you're going to talk about when you couldn't bond with Ralph," and I didn't even think it was a thing. I knew inside myself that I'm struggling there. I'm struggling to bond with him. I'm struggling to replicate that love I've got for Isla with Ralph. And in some ways, I felt a little bit guilty towards Isla that I'm, trying to love another. Yeah. It's really weird thing going on. But I thought I'd kept all that to myself, to be honest. And then Jenny would say, "No, you were sad. You unresponsive. You did struggle." And I didn't really see that, and I wouldn't really talk to anyone about it. And I think, given the opportunity again, I don't know whether it's my personality, I still don't think I'd reach out. I don't feel, I don't know, some of these problems, I just seem to accept that they are problems, and it's something I've got to deal with myself. My mentality towards mental health is probably wrong, Aaron. It's, I am what you're trying to coax out of people. I really am. I don't think I'd open up to my mates. I don't think I'd open up to my family. I really don't think. I don't know how bad it would have to get for me to say, look, just to say the words, I'm struggling with my mental health. I don't know what limit it would be for me to open up like that. But on the other hand, I'd tell everyone to open up, and I'd offer an ear to everybody. Yeah. I really would. But me personally, I'm still struggling to see whether I'm worthy enough or or am I important enough? Does it matter if my mental health ain't good to somebody else? I don't feel like I've got that confidence to confide in someone, even my wife, my mum and dad. I still don't feel I can go up to them and say, look, I'm struggling. Until it happens, until I really need to reach out. I don't think at this moment in time I really would. I'm just being honest.
Mate, this is what it's all about: transparency and honesty. It's important that we come from all these different angles, because ultimately, hearing how everyone deals with it, whether it's right or wrong, for me, there's no right or wrong. It's the individual. It's down to the individual. It's dependent on how mental health. That's why I asked you all the question, like, what does it mean to you? Is it something that you can talk about? Is it something that you're fearful of? And I think you're probably right, in my opinion, mate. You're still learning. You're still learning about your mental well-being. You're still learning where it sits in your framework of day-to-day life. And you recognise there's a struggle. You recognise there's an issue somewhere, but it's never quite clear enough or transparent enough for you to go, right, these are my issues and this is where I need my help. And maybe that will develop. More conversations like this, spending time with good people, and mate, it might happen. There's always an olive branch here, that, and an ear, and I'm sure you've got that around you anyway, and that will come if it's going to come. I think the important thing is that you're honest, and I think too often we're not honest. We deny the fact that we've got some issues going on, and that's when it can come really, really, really an issue. I must
admit, I wasn't expecting to come on here and talk that deep, to be honest, but I feel comfortable with you lads, to be honest. Yeah. But
lovely, mate.
It's just come out.
Just going on that, what Ryan said, I think there was definitely a point when I was exactly the same as that, Ryan. That rang so many bells to me when you were talking like that. Because up until the point when I actually reached out first, which was probably 7 years ago, I reckon now, I was exactly the same mindset. I can deal with this. It's not a problem. I feel a bit down. I feel a bit low, but it's nothing I can't deal with. And then I think we went on holiday to Cyprus with my wife and the kids, and we went to this lovely hotel. Loved my kids, loved the wife, fantastic family. And we had this 2 weeks, all inclusive. And after about 4 or 5 nights, I sat up in bed and I said to my wife, I said, there's something wrong here. She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm on holiday in a beautiful hotel, weather's amazing, with my wife and my 2 kids. I'm not happy. That ain't right, is it? And she was going, no, it's not right. And I read a book, and it was a bloke called Foxy Fowler, and he's a cricket chap, and he has suffered all his life with mental health problems. And I read his book, and it was like opening like a portal. It suddenly like shone a light on, bloody hell, that's how I feel. That's how I've been feeling for ages now. And I said to her, I said, right, that's it. When I get home, I'm going to phone up and get and talk to someone. And that's at that point I did it. So yeah, I was exactly the same as you. Maybe it's not that you're just not that, you don't feel that bad at the moment, or there's not enough, I don't know what it is. But for me, that was the trigger. I was on this beautiful holiday with my lovely family, and I was just sitting there, I was unhappy. I was thinking, why are you unhappy here? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think often we don't really know why we wait so long to open up, why we don't open up, why we're comfortable opening up to some people and not to others. I've been in the mental health profession now for 14 years. And I still don't know the answer. I'd love to be able to write a book on these are the answers. Let's cure mental health issues. And with the personal and professional experiences that I have, I still don't know the answer, boys. And I don't think that anyone would ever ask you to find an answer. It's just kind of establishing and navigating through ourselves and our well-being and finding the best route forward. And sometimes that route doesn't exist, and we have to find another way to get to it. And I think it's really important, and it's really valuable that you're opening up like this, because I know my one aim with this podcast is with Holtby 6 was just to create that platform. So someone might listen to this in the next few days and be like, bloody hell, Justin and Ryan have talked about this, and that's exactly my life. They've literally spoken the words that I can't say, and then you create that conversation, encouragement, and that's what it's all about. So from a different perspective then, Luke, in regards to someone that hasn't kind of struggled deeply with mental well-being, not really gone through those struggles personally, but you've experienced it with clients, etc.
Yeah.
Let's bring Villa into this conversation a little bit, and football as a whole. Like, how does football as a community support someone's well-being we saw in lockdown when football disappeared, the demise in people's well-being and mental health. People were isolated. They had nothing to live for on the weekends. It was all very drip and drab, and we saw that a lot on Twitter, didn't we? You know, that environment that we were experiencing on Twitter was all very isolated, lonely, missing the football. How does football and the community around it support our well-being? How does it make us feel?
Well, I feel like what you just said, really. I think when you don't have football and you're sat at home and you're on your own and you're feeling isolated, it's difficult, isn't it? But I think football, we all know that going to actually watch the football team is probably the last thing that you look forward to when you go into the game. Do you know what I mean? I look forward to going to meet the friends, the family, the community that we have there, you know, and enjoying that part of it. I think when that got took away from everybody, you lose that sense of belonging again, don't you? You know, like what we got going on now. I think, you know, you can sort of see a little bit on Twitter, a little bit. Look, you can see that the whole mood has now gone very, very negative. One fan says one negative thing, and that is it. It's a pylon. And I think that's down to that sense of we're just not there, are we? We're not at the games. We can't talk. We can't experience the things that we normally love to experience when we're at the Villa. So you can tell that the mood swiftly changes. And that's exactly what you could see, you know, in lockdown. And I think when we all went back to the games, everything, the mood, the vibe, it was just all uplifted again, wasn't it? And, you know, Villa's not just a football team, is it? We know that it does so much for the community. It does so much for, like, homelessness. It does absolutely everything. And that foundation, you know, work wonders in every certain aspect in which they work in. So I just think Villa is everything, isn't it? If you're not a football fan, and it's hard to explain, isn't it, what that can bring to somebody. And like even going to the games for me, like, you know, I don't suffer with mental health, but when I'm at those games and I'm, you know, cheering and singing, that is a release for me. That is my release, and that is my time. So when I'm at that game, that's just me at that standing in that Holt end on my own, having my time. And for me, that is massive. So that's probably where I sort of get my little bit of a release, really.
Yeah, it's lovely, mate. It's lovely. I think everybody feels like that, don't they? You know, the Villa at a weekend or on under the lights at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night. You know, it's those moments. It's those. I don't get to Villa Park half as much as you boys do, but I know every time I come down, I'm like a 2-year-old in a sweet shop. You know what I mean? I'm absolutely.
But you know, when you came down as well, though, and you know, you met us three, didn't you? And you saw Morgan, and you know, it's that community, isn't it? You know, you've travelled to that game, and yeah, you've watched the game, but what you've took out of that game is meeting everybody else, talking to us, you know. So, like what I was saying, it's more than just the team, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, you've probably got more memories of pre-match, post-match, who you're seeing more so than the actual game itself.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I agree.
And like when we do some of the fan cams and there's some little kids that are standing there watching us, or we've got people coming up to us saying, you know, I love your channel, I love what you're doing. Like, they like watching us, don't they? So when you take that time to talk to them, you know, you don't know what it's doing to their mood. I mean, we did a live stream the other day, and Lee Topless, he sent us a comment, and he was saying, like, oh my God, Luke's just read my comment out. He's just made my day. And, you know, just reading that comment has uplifted that person's mood tenfold. So, you know, just talking to fans and being involved with each other, it can do so much for people, can't it?
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. And I guess it comes down to what I was saying to you off air, Luke, before we started. You know, you boys are well known now. And, you know, there was no hesitation in getting you on here as soon as I could, because, you know, I think you guys being on screen talking about something a little bit more sensitive and a little bit more relevant to people that don't speak about this sort of stuff, and then them knowing the podcast that you run and what you do, it makes you very real. And I think that's what's important here. You know, you're not just behind a screen all the time talking about football. We're actually three real gents, three real human beings with lives, struggles, difficulties, families, etc. And I think that's the beautiful thing about it all, you know. But you're right, mate, you know, the community is very important, isn't it? It's everything for some people.
I mean, one thing that my main thing when I set up the Villa podcast was to give every single Villa fan that watches or goes to the games an opportunity to have a say on stuff, because sometimes they might not get listened to. Do you know what I mean? If you're like really cool looking, you're young, you can host a podcast or whatever, you know, people think, yeah, but why would they listen to the dude that's sat in there? And, you know, so I just think to be able to give people a opportunity to talk and have a voice and know that their opinion matters is absolutely massive, because, like, I'm no better than anybody else. And I think if everybody thinks the same, then, you know, society will be a better place, because everybody's opinion matters and everybody's feelings matter, don't they, really?
Yeah, and to be valued with an opinion or with an input or with some sort of voice can go a long way to improving someone's well-being, particularly if they've had a week of difficulty, you know, depression, high anxiety, financial struggles, stress, whatever. You know, to be heard on a Saturday and watch the football and be with their friends and family and be involved in something cool like a podcast, fan cam, you know, that's quite a big thing. And it creates that, like you said right at the beginning, mate, which is bang on, that sense of identity, that sense of belonging, that sense of worthfulness, you know, being a part of something, you know. And I think for a lot of us, and I struggled with this massively when the gym shut before lockdown, when lockdown hit, I lost my belonging completely. You know, my identity disappeared. I didn't really know who I was. I felt like a fuzzy mess. I wasn't allowed to go and train, wasn't allowed to coach my clients. You know, it was weird, mate. It was like a world I'd never existed in before. And I think
everybody's sense of belonging matters. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that is really, really important. You should never try and have too much self-doubt, because your worth is just as much as anybody else's.
Love that, mate. You sweetheart. All right then, boys, cool. So let's go for some biggest Villa inspirations then, just to tie us off nicely. So biggest Villa inspiration and why, Ryan? One Villa inspiration and why?
Well, I'd probably go my first, really, Paul McGrath. I'd have to plug for him. Inspiration. He had demons, didn't he? He had demons, and I don't know. I'm going backwards here with the whole mental health thing, because he had demons, but he just got on with it, didn't he? And he produced some of the best football. Maybe he's not a good role model for me, because I'm probably doing the same thing. You know what I mean? Just getting on with it. But he's still around now. He's sorted himself out. He had a real bad time, but like I say, in the end, he seeked help, and he's still with us. And I've been to a few of his Q&A's, and he's a great guy, and he's got some fantastic stories. And I always just remember going down the whole end, standing on a bloody milk crate, like peering over, and I could see the number 5 shirt, and just the way he read the game was incredible. My dad was always pointing him out. Look, he's one step ahead. You know, he's got no knees, but he's already 2 steps ahead, 3 steps ahead of the centre forward, and he was just an unbelievable talent. And sometimes I wish I weren't 39, and I wish I was 29, but then I wouldn't get the chance to see Paul McGrath. I was just so lucky to see him.
Yeah. No, I love that, mate. And I think just going back to kind of, is he actually a role model? Because he never spoke about it, but I think he comes from a time when nobody could have expected anybody to talk about it. You know what I mean? This is the change in our society now. Back then, nobody did, mate. You know, no bloke spoke about their mental health. It's only in the last 10, 15 years, max tops, you know, that people have started to come out and talk about it. And you do see professionals now coming out, Tyrone, Aaron Lennon. You know, there's a lot of players that are slowly coming out and talking about it. But back then, mate, was never expected of anybody. So he can be a role model because it wasn't expected of anybody to do that then. You know, it might be different for an 11-year-old. If you ask them the same question nowadays, who's your inspiration? You know, could be someone that's come out as gay, or, you know, we live in a completely different society that never happened before. So fair enough, mate. And what a player he was. I know he wasn't a Villa that long, but what a player he was for us. He was insane. Just biggest Villa inspiration, and why?
He's beat me too. I was going to say there he's up there, not Paul McGrath. But I think I will pick somebody else actually. Now Ryan's picked who I was going to pick. I'm going to pick Tyrone Mings because I think since he came to the club, he came just as a player. I didn't know much about him. On loan, terrible injury record, hadn't played much. Came to Villa, Championship, and he's been sensational for us, hasn't he? I think off the pitch, especially. The bloke is a colossus off the pitch. I mean, he's a fantastic footballer on the pitch. I know he's got his detractors, but quite frankly, what that bloke brings to Villa Park as a man, it's phenomenal. The stuff he does off the pitch, the way he talks, the way when he went to play for England and he got that racist abuse and he stood up and he was the one that was shouting it down. His mental health, the way he champions mental health, he goes to all the things at Villa Park and he talks a lot about things like that. And he knows he's a role model. He knows his position at the club is a very important one as the captain of the club. And he does it brilliantly. You can be a captain on the pitch and you can lead the team, great. But to do everything he does off the pitch as well, I think it says a lot about the character of the man. And I think Villa are a better club to have him there, if I'm brutally honest.
Totally
it's
agree.
It's like Luke says, isn't it? He's made himself accessible. Do you know what I mean? You feel like he's approachable. He's taking time out to speak to everybody, and he's on Twitter as well. And you see him like someone's comment, and that just makes somebody's world, doesn't it? And just stuff like that. Just a little note or a little nod. It can just change everything, can't it?
Yeah, he's the type of professional, isn't he? He's the type of bloke. I call him a gentleman because to me he is a gent. He is a true gent on and off the field, and he's the type of bloke that I don't think many would ever hesitate just going to ask something that's quite deep and quite sensitive because he's very approachable, isn't he? His content, the way he goes about himself, his aura, his body language is like it's bang on right with your word. He's very accessible. He's very inviting. And he's been through a lot of what other fans have been through, and still does today. He's no secret to that. He talks about his mental health quite openly, and that's really inspiring.
I like the way he sort of he looks after his family as well, because he's got his work life and his family. He's very precious about his family, which is fantastic, and he's just a top bloke, to be honest. My daughter, luckily, my eldest daughter shares the same birthday as him. Would you believe? And he sent her a happy 18th birthday message because we know somebody that knows somebody at the ground, and he never even hesitated. Apparently, he went, "Yeah, no worries, I'll do it." And imagine how many people he gets asked to do things like that. So, yeah, I was going to say Paul McGrath. He is my all-time Villa hero for what he did for the club and his problems that he could easily not be here now. You look at some of other footballers that aren't. I think he's done fantastically well, as a bloke, and he does champion a lot of things as well, but I think we've got to really appreciate Tyrone Mings for what he is, I think.
I agree, mate. Totally agree. Finishes off then, Luke, mate. Biggest Villa inspiration and why?
So I was going to say Mings, but...
Sorry, Luke.
Here we go.
But I'm going to change it. I know it's not my show. I'm going to say Tyson Fury. Now, forget everything that he said in the past, because I don't agree with some of the stuff he said. But that man was heavyweight world champion, right? And he then had all of his demons, all of his, everything that went on in his life. He went to 20-some odd stone. He wanted to drive his car off into a wall. And for him to come back and blitz Wilder and blitz the heavyweight division again and show that you can come back from the bottom, having won everything, having got everything, having had all this money, to me, is an absolute remarkable story. And I think I'll commend him for that, because I just think he's fantastic, and I think it's just great, isn't it, that he was able to do that. And so I'm saying Fury.
No, that's fine, mate. I think it's an important one. It's a nice one to finish off on because, for me, he is. I've had a very small amount of engagement with Tyson. Very lucky. About 3-4 years ago, I had a big conversation with him about mental health, and he is a real metaphoric version of hope. He is the belief that everybody needs to or has to try and find one day if they're going through what they've been through. Particularly in Tyson's case, where suicide was a very viable option far too many times in his life. Rock bottom, no way out, but he found a way out, and I think that just is very inspirational, and I think his story does emulate real hope and real admiration, and I totally agree with you. And it's a shame he's not a Villa fan, to be honest. But he is, top pro, and like Tyrone, I guess in that respect, he's very open about talking about it, isn't he? He doesn't shy away from it. It's real, it's life, and there's no hiding from it. And I think we'll see more of that as times move forward. We'll see more and more pros, not just footballers, but the sportsmen across the board, and women coming out and talking about their mental well-being and things like that. Tom Daly's another example, diver, GB lad, talks about his mental health quite often in a quite open and safe sense. And I think that's really positive. And that is because of the community that football presents itself as. And, that is only going to help fans around the world and in the Villa fan base, but around the world, start to come out and talk about these things, because we're still in a society whereby men really struggle to talk about the way they feel. And for umpteen reasons, we've still got to try and break down that taboo and break down that stigma. And, in my 15 years, we've come a long way, but we've still got a long, long way to go. And
it still feels like still early doors, doesn't it? It's superb for the next generation, the kids coming through, that they're going to have this support and going to be made aware of it. Yeah, I'd say in primary school, wouldn't they? That I think they'd be made aware of it from the off, and that it's acceptable to speak to one another, it's acceptable to talk, it's acceptable to feel sad, it's acceptable to feel miserable at the time, and just having the tools there to deal with it and cope with it. One of my best friends, really, with school friends. We don't see each other a lot. We speak to each other on Christmas Day when the Queen's speech was on. It's something we've done since primary school. 3:00 on Christmas Day, we phone each other and we have a chat, and we have never missed it. And unfortunately, his son took his own life 3 years ago. 16 years old. Just couldn't cope, and I think we do not want to see repeats of that now. You do such a great job to raise awareness, and if we can stop these suicides, then I'm all for it 100%. No, it's
totally.
It's a disease, isn't it? It's a horrible. Yeah, it's horrible, and I really commend what you're doing, Aaron. What you're putting yourself out there. It's really good work, mate.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that, brother. I do, and I really appreciate all of you coming on. I think it's been a really positive but deep conversation, and that's exactly what I want this podcast to try and do. And just give us the time to talk like lads, but talk about the serious stuff as well. It's not always about the football; it's about how we are in life, and that's the important thing. So I just want to pour my heart out to all three of you. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time, and we'll get you back on again. At some point. Got a nice list of guests coming up over the next few months, but we'll get this one out and we'll see how we go from there. So, thank you very much, boys. I really appreciate your time, and I'll speak to you all again soon. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Any questions for anybody on here? I guess just fire over some DMs. Everybody knows the UTV Podcast Twitter account. So fire over stuff. It's nice to hear the feedback from people who have watched it, and if there's any way that any four of us on this platform can help you, then that's what we're here to do. So, thanks. And up the Villa. Let's get back to some pre-season action.
Up the Villa.
Up the Villa.